somebody passed on, the family member goes down to the bank, I need access to this account. Oh, you need so and so to do that. Well, no, they've passed on. Oh. Hi, Jeff Mersace, the Plain English Attorney, and welcome to the video. Today, I am going to be reacting to something on Reddit's r/estate planning. It's about a woman who can't get access to her deceased husband's money. Now, I'm going to very freely admit, look, there's a lot more to this. So if you go and look it up on the post, it's not going to be what I'm portraying it as. This very first post, though, reflects a lot of frustrating things that people come across when trying to get access to a deceased family member's money. So that's why I'm using it for illustrative purposes. If you think it's important for educational videos like this to get out there, then please help us out by subscribing to the channel. Still haven't accessed late husband's money. Every time I think I have done all of the steps, they come up with more steps. It took me 4 trips to my local credit union just to create an estate account. So let's go ahead and talk about that a little bit, because this is a little bit further on than that initial step that I usually see, which is, okay, somebody passed on, the family member goes down to the bank, I need access to this account. Oh, you need so and so to do that. Well, no, they've passed on. Oh, well, now you need these items. And here's where the frustration often begins, and it usually is something with the bank as opposed to some other financial institutions. Usually when you just walk into a bank, the people who will greet you to try to set up accounts, those kind of very first contact frontline people, especially in the more urban areas, they've usually been there less than a year. They may not have had a lot of experience in dealing with estates, so they look stuff up. This doesn't usually happen if it's a manager or someone who's experienced, or if in the rural area you've got 5 or 6 employees at the same branch and they've been there forever. They've seen all this stuff before. But it can get to be frustrating because they're looking it up and they go, okay, it looks like you need these 3 things. And usually that first step is letters testamentary. They usually say, yeah, you need letters testamentary from the court. In North Carolina, letters testamentary is if the person died with a will. Letters of administration is if the person did not have a will, but it's the same thing. It's permission papers from the court to start collecting assets. And the way it's usually portrayed from the bank, because it's from their perspective, is if you want access to this money, just give us that paperwork and you've got access to it. But it's not. It's the start of the process. So when you have someone at the bank saying you need letters testamentary, it's to get started, but then you also have to set up an estate account. So you make whatever filings you have to with the court, and usually it's not just a simple, hey, this person died, can you give me these letters? No. There's an inventory. There's a swearing under oath that you're going to be a good fiduciary and collect the assets on behalf of the court as part of this process, and eventually get it over to your beneficiaries. So that, all right, so this is what happens. They set up the estate account after they get the letters testamentary, and then it's, okay, we can give you access to those funds. Either here's a check or we'll deposit it into the estate account, and then you have access to it. Well, wait a minute. You've got access to that as a fiduciary. So let's go on to the subsequent part. On June 1st, I finally heard the words, we will be mailing you a check on Friday. It is apropos to my experience. It's now 2 weeks later, and still no check. They say I have to wait until Tuesday to have the check canceled and a new one mailed out. Of course, that check is made out to estate of. I hope it's not too long after depositing it that I can move it into my own account. Right. There's a word for that, embezzling, if it's not done right. The problem is, even though this is the surviving spouse, they may not be the only beneficiary. And in fact, if you read a little bit further on, they're not the only beneficiary. There's a daughter involved who, under state law, I'm presuming, gets part of this too. So when you're taking that money as a fiduciary of the court, you've got to use the money to pay for expenses, handle any final bills, and then you send it out to the beneficiaries with the appropriate paperwork. It's a whole other involved process, but often people mistakenly believe, oh, all I need is this paperwork, and then I can get the money from the bank and put it in my pocket, because that's the way the bank makes it sound. It's not the bank's responsibility to tell you, well, you've got all of these other things that you have to do for probate, and you have to do, because then the bank would actually kind of be giving legal advice. This is a situation where you're very likely going to want an attorney, or you're going to have to read up an awful lot more. Now, I often tell people, being an executor for a full-blown estate, it's the worst part-time job you will ever have. It's frustrating. There's a ton of paperwork. You need to get copies of receipts and cancel checks and all this other stuff, and you've got to fill out the inventories and submit them to the court. And it's not as simple as, here's some paper, let me put the money in my pocket. So in this particular case, with that woman whose husband had passed on, she did get an attorney, and according to her, the attorneys of the law firm did not do what they were supposed to do, dragged their feet on stuff, got stuff wrong, and just kept billing her and billing her and billing her and billing her and billing her. And she finally fired them and went on her own to get the stuff to get the ball moving. She said she yelled at the partner, and he said, well, look, you don't know what you're talking about. Look, I don't know. It's a little more involved than that. But this case was a little bit further along than the initial questions I typically get at my law firm. Just realize it's not all that simple. And a lot of my clients, they just want to avoid probate as much as possible. And so they'll set up a revocable trust and have a well-funded revocable living trust so that it stays out of probate. So I hope you found that information useful. As I always tell my clients, please stay safe, plan ahead, and enjoy life. If you get an opportunity, please smash that like button and subscribe to the channel. And as I always say, whatever you do, make it a great day.